Welcome to Responses Part 2, and we'll jump right in with a few objections raised about my 2001 review. You are judging the film on the basis of it being an entertainment film, when in actuality it is an art film and needs to be judged on that level, in the same way you can't judge a comedy like you judge a drama. Blade Runner was an art film. Pan's Labyrinth was an art film. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was an art film. It could be argued that Donnie Darko was an art film. These films have plots. These films have characters. These films have story. These films have dialogue. These films have narrative. See, I'm not objecting to the art part of this label. It's that film part that I don't accept. This is not a film. Not because I don't like it or because it sucks, but because it lacks so many basic elements that it doesn't even qualify as a film. Characters, story, dialogue, plot, narrative, and so forth. 2001 may qualify as art, but it does not qualify as a film, any more than a blank canvas qualifies as a painting or a man standing still qualifies as a dance. 2001 is an attempt to alter the consciousness of the audience. It's all an exploration of consciousness, right down to the transcending of the main character's mind into the next level of human evolution. The film isn't trying to dictate, throw stuff at you, or force you to think or even react. Instead, it's trying to make you stop thinking and expecting and let go of your ego self. Let's consider a hypothetical for a moment. Let's say I make a movie that consists of shooting different angles of a guy sitting in a chair, staring at a wall for 2 hours. Okay, the guy represents life, and the chair he's sitting in represents man's difficulty in standing on his own in life. The wall he's staring at is a representation of the inevitability of death, and the fact that he's staring at it represents the fact that while life is always looking forward, it inevitably leads to death. On paper, many of these images and analogies may be thought-provoking, but does that translate into this being a good movie? Absolutely not. Why? Because whatever this movie does or does not make you think about, whether or not it makes you stop expecting and let go of your ego self, is irrelevant to the fact that on film, it's just a guy sitting in a chair staring at the wall for 2 hours. Just because a movie makes you think or stop thinking about something does not mean it is good as a movie. Take away the subjective, audience-dependent interpretations of 2001, and it's just crap floating in space. Now, some may say that by failing to participate in interpretation, I am failing to participate in 2001, period. And to an extent, they'd be right. I'm not going to write this movie for him. Kubrick didn't seem very interested in thinking about what the images in 2001 mean, so why should I? What you call nothing opens minds for others. By slowing down everything, spaceships take on the same significance as landscapes. Again, it's intended. There is no plot on purpose. It's all about the spiritual mysticism of everything, landscapes and spaceships alike. Everything is a wonder, a marvel. All life is a miracle. That is the artist's view on reality, which clearly confuses you. To this I would say that whether or not this opens the minds of others is irrelevant. I'm not judging the people watching the film, I'm judging the film. Moreover, spaceships and landscapes can be presented as significant whether they are shown for 2 seconds or 2 hours. So where do we draw the line here? As I said in my review, crop the fat that is most of this film, and the film itself would be unchanged. Lastly, the artist's view on reality is not my problem. It's how that view on reality translates into a story, which it doesn't in this film. The movie does not tell me that all life is a miracle. All it tells me is that it sure takes a fucking long time for someone to get from one place to another in this film. By this logic, I could make a film about someone finding the Holy Grail and have the majority be showing him in the airport and on the plane getting there. This is not a story. This is not a plot. This is not a character. It's just crap floating in space. Now, this next submitted objection does something very specific. It compares elements that Pulp Fiction got wrong and compares it to what 2001 got right. We'll take them one at a time. Fan speculation seems to be the thing that you refuse to acknowledge. You refuse to have interpretation as much as a literal definition of everything that happens. Fan speculation coincides with Pulp Fiction. The problem is, it is nearly impossible to explain why Marvin gets shot in the face. In Pulp Fiction, Vincent accidentally shoots Marvin in the face. He accidentally has the gun in his hand, accidentally with the safety off, accidentally with his finger on the trigger, accidentally loaded, accidentally pointed at Marvin, and accidentally pulls the trigger. What professional hitman would do this? If he's not professional, why is he being hired? I have heard some compelling fan speculation that he intended to shoot him to see if divine intervention actually works, but that's just fan speculation. Well, personally, I have never heard of anyone interpreting this point in the film, first, because it isn't very important in the film, and second, because it's not interpretive. Vincent's failure to engage the safety and accidentally shooting Marvin in the face is consistent with what has been established about his character. Why did he accidentally shoot Marvin? The same reason he left drugs in the pocket of a coat he gave to Mia. The same reason he left his gun in the kitchen instead of taking it with him in the bathroom. Vincent Vega was established from the beginning as a man whose ego and moodiness gets the better of him. A man who is completely complacent. Professional, yes, but careless. None of this needs to be interpreted, however, because Pulp Fiction is not an interpretive film. It has an about that is independent of audience speculation, which 2001 does not have. In fact, the only element in Pulp Fiction that is dependent on audience speculation is the question of what's in the case, which is the only part of the film that I did not like. To reiterate something I said earlier, Tarantino didn't seem to care enough about what was in the case to give it any thought, so why should I? Now on to your point about 2001. 2001 actually has evidence to support these fan speculations. The monolith has symbolic meaning of a black cinema screen flipped 90 degrees. It has been speculated that it means that you should look at it through new eyes. Don't take the movie literally, but find deeper meaning. This is evidenced by Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite, where the monolith is finally seen with the flipped horizontal view, as well as the vertical Stargate sequence becoming horizontal halfway into it. What are you talking about? The monoliths are so obviously a baseball metaphor, it's silly. Because when you hold a baseball bat vertically, you indicate to the audience in the stands that you intend to hit a home run. This is why there were no baby transformations at the beginning of the film, because the monolith wasn't horizontal yet. And of course, you can't hit a home run without holding the baseball bat horizontally, so the horizontal position is a clear indication that a ball is about to be smacked out of the stands. And so with all this imagery, we can logically conclude that the space baby at the end of the film was the reincarnation of Mickey Mantle. I mean, it's so obvious, people. It's right there in front of you. Come on. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, but my point is this. Based on the film, I have just as much evidence to support my conclusion as you do yours, which is what happens when you're trying to judge a work that hides an ambiguity. I'm looking at you, Kubrick. And Baudrillard. And West. This may seem far-fetched because Kubrick seemed to say that none of these themes were supposed to be intentional. Hang on, let me stop you right there. Are you saying that Kubrick admitted that his film does not conclude what you're saying it does, but you're still saying it does? I'm sorry, but I just don't get that. This is the same problem I had with the film Last Year at Marienbad, which, like 2001, was about nothing and was an incoherent mess of imagery. Fans of this film have debated its meaning for decades, but little do they know that the director has actually commented on this film's meaning, claiming that it in fact has none. I have informed fans of the film of this fact and asked if after this concession from the director, they still believe the film has meaning, and I have never heard a single fan respond anything but yes. When asked if they still find the film to be praiseworthy, they have also answered yes. Huh? So the director just admitted that the film is meaningless, and you're still giving him praise for that? I don't get it. Fan speculation seems to be the thing that you will refuse to acknowledge. You refuse to have interpretation as much as a literal definition of everything that happens. Well, that's true to a point, but not totally. Fan speculation was a key component to films such as Donnie Darko and especially the ending of Pan's Labyrinth, and both films I love. And once again, fan speculation is also a component in Pulp Fiction where we're supposed to ask what's in the case. That part I did not love, but it doesn't matter because fan speculation isn't all these films are. There's a supposition about me that runs something like this. Confused Matthew didn't like 2001 because it was interpretive. Other films have interpretive elements, therefore Confused Matthew shouldn't like those other films either. Well, let me say, now and for all time, that I am okay with interpretive elements to a movie, but not when it's the whole goddamn fucking film! When I go to a Kubrick film, I don't want to see my movie, I want to see Kubrick's movie. My argument isn't that 2001 is a bad movie. It's that it's not a movie, because it lacks the basic elements that would make it qualify as a movie. Story, characters, dialogue, narrative. I know, all of this I've said before. It has images, but those images fail to tell a story or do much of anything for that matter. In fact, the praise that this movie has gotten has been directed at aspects of the film other than actually judging it as a film. Let's look at the awards that this film has won. Best Visual Effects, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Soundtrack. All of these I agree with, but none of them lead to the conclusion that this is a film. A movie about a guy staring at a wall for 2 hours can have the best art direction and cinematography in the world, and the movie would still fail to qualify as a film. Let's look at what this film was nominated for. Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Motion Pictures. Oh, that's a shame. I think Kubrick should have won that one. Best Director. Best Screenplay. Best Screenplay? Best Screenplay? What the hell was this nominated for Best Screenplay for? You, the person who sent me your monolith interpretation, and the people who have sent me video responses explaining 2001 have all put a lot more thought into the plot of 2001 than Kubrick ever did. In my opinion, you guys should have been nominated for this fucking award. Here is a great quote about Kubrick from Rob Ager. I really hope I'm pronouncing that name right, by the way. Sometimes they are aware of such subliminal embedding, but refrain from revealing the details to a public who are likely to ponder more deeply over the film if the film answers aren't spelled out for them. Kubrick's work being a perfect example. Well, note that Ager isn't giving Kubrick credit for writing a great screenplay or even making a great movie. It's all about technique. And the only technique he cites is the strategy of a supposed subliminal embedding, a refraining from revealing the details to a public who are likely to ponder more deeply over the film than if the answers aren't spelled out for them. In doing so, Ager is actually making my point for me. 2001 is not a film. All it is a series of images set to music that can be interpreted a certain way by the general public. And as I said in my review, that isn't hard. Anyone can do that. I can do that right now. Why? See, I can dump imagery on screen set to music that goes on for too long and have the audience interpret its subliminal meaning. Where's my best screenplay nomination? Oh, and I guarantee you that the images I used were not random, nor was the song choice. Everything in the video has a significant subliminal meaning. I won't tell you what it is. Work it out for yourself. Ain't I a genius? I'll reiterate a point I made in my review. Judging them both strictly as films, 2001 isn't any better or worse than Howard the Duck. It's just different. Howard the Duck constitutes a bad film, whereas 2001 doesn't constitute a film at all. However, judging them both as interpretive films, Howard the Duck is just as good as 2001, because both films can be interpreted to be as good or bad as you want them to be. The monkeys at the beginning are not dicking around doing nothing. They are driven away from their watering hole by another group of monkeys, then they gain knowledge from the monolith and use this knowledge to gather food and fight the other monkeys. Not really to do with the film, but what did you feel you had to work to understand in The Sixth Sense? Well, obviously I didn't mean that they were literally doing nothing. I mean, even a guy sitting in a chair staring at the wall for 2 hours isn't doing nothing. He's staring at a wall. My point is that what they're doing is so unimportant that it could easily be cut for time. To make a point I've made in other reviews, your explanation of what the monkeys were doing took about 2 seconds for you to summarize, but we have to watch this play out in the film for 16 minutes and 51 seconds. Consider Jurassic Park. The workers at the beginning aren't doing nothing either. They were digging for amber. Now imagine if Jurassic Park opened with the workers on the dig site digging for amber but finding nothing. This sequence goes on for 10 minutes. Then they find amber with a mosquito inside and start making dinosaurs. And the full sequence concludes after 16 minutes. In both cases, we get it. We get that the workers are digging for amber and finding nothing, then finding amber and making dinosaurs. But in neither case do these things need to go on for so long. Regarding your question about The Sixth Sense, and this is a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is revealed at the end of the film that Bruce Willis's character was in fact dead the whole time. This wasn't just a trick, however, as Shyamalan gave the audience clues that would have enabled them to figure this out before the reveal, from certain pieces of dialogue to the use of the color red. You have often declared that 2001 does not mean anything, but do you still count it as a worthwhile film? If nothing else, 2001 features remarkable effects and an inviting, tangible look at the future. Claiming that an abstract film has no value is a dangerous attitude as it subjects media to narrow standards of what art can and cannot be. Well, as I said in the beginning of my review, I do consider 2001 to be worthless, but not in all respects, only in the respect of it being a film. As a special effects demo reel or a cinematographer's video resume, 2001 may be great. But again, I don't agree that 2001 constitutes an abstract film. Abstract? Definitely. Film? No. There is a reason 2001 was an influential film with regard to how other films are shot, but not how other films are written. Unless you count Star Trek the Motion Picture and the Matrix sequels. All 3 films tried to get away with the exact same shit Kubrick was trying to pull, but both failed because somehow the same excuses that protect Kubrick from legitimate criticism do not protect these films. Why? I have no idea. But as for your last point about narrowing the standards of what art can and cannot be, art is a very ambiguous term. 2001 and the Mona Lisa are both art, but both are judged by very different standards, one being the standard of a film and the other the standards of a painting. I reiterate my example of a blank canvas being passed off as a painting. Based on the statement something like that might make, let's say the artist wanted to make an abstract point about the void of art, then it may be considered art, but it is not a painting. It is not my direct intention to narrow the standards of anything, but I do hold firm to the position that a film that lacks characters, story, dialogue, plot, and narrative does not qualify as a film, in the same respect that a painting that lacks paint does not qualify as a painting. In an interview on the RAMA video game, Arthur C. Clarke pondered on whether humans are closer to apes or angels in the hierarchy of the universe. This relates directly to 2001 as we watch humanity progress from apes to a spacefaring civilization and finally to a kind of transcendence in the Star Child. Meanwhile, we are still under the influence of an extraordinarily advanced intelligence and its signature monoliths. From this, and from Clarke's question, 2001 could be seen as investigating our place in the cosmos. Given that Arthur C. Clarke, one of the creators of 2001, has hinted at the film's subtext, does this make 2001 any more meaningful for you? No, because I don't see anything in the film that would answer Clarke's question. Is the Star Child any closer to being an angel than being an ape? We don't know because we don't know anything about the Star Child other than the fact that it's in space. Maybe the Star Child was less evolved. Maybe the fact that it was in an infant state was an indication of regression. Maybe the monoliths were only meant to come to us on their own terms, but to go to them was forbidden and punishable by de-evolution. Why are we to assume that the Star Child is transcendent? Because it's in space? 2001 could be seen as investigating our place in the cosmos, or it could be seen as an investigation into the evolution of the turkey sandwich. It can be seen as anything because it's dependent on subjective interpretation. Objectively, it's just imagery dumped on screen. Now again, I want to remind everyone that no one has to agree with me in order for me to respect their opinion. And although I stand by my feelings and opinions on this non-movie, I do understand where you are all coming from, and even if I don't, I'm trying, and I hope this response will help you to understand, or try to understand, where I'm coming from as well. That's all for now.
I wonder what the space baby thinks about all this.
Nope. I got nothing.